I'm Gloria Allred, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Hansen. In world news headlines today, NATO admits to killing 8 Afghan children in airstrike. And Eurozone finance chiefs delay Greek bailout following protests. And out of Syria, crackdown widens as referendum date set. And Bahraini forces target anniversary protest, detain U.S. human rights monitors. And Obama hosts Chinese Vice President Xi Jinping. And hundreds protest Chinese abuses outside the White House. And prison fire kills 272 in Honduras. And Panetta touts Asia expansion, defends military budget. And Congress reaches tentative deal on payroll tax cuts. And hundreds protest Alabama anti-immigration law. And pet owners protest Romney outside dog show. And a report says U.S. voter rolls include names of 1.8 million dead. And Florida blocks massive corporate prison plan. GVTV News would like to say the views expressed on our news broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views of NCTV Digital Media Center. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, the U.S.-led NATO force in Afghanistan has apologized for an airstrike last week that killed 8 young Afghan children. Local residents blamed NATO at the time, but it took several days for NATO to admit fault. Earlier yesterday, NATO's communication director, General Louis Boone, confirmed the bombing and expressed regret, and said, "I would like to first express our most sincere condolences to the families and loved ones of the 8 victims of this small community, in which 8 young Afghans lost their lives as a result of an airstrike by coalition forces. Despite all tactical directives being followed precisely, we know now the unfortunate results of this engagement." According to the United Nations, civilian casualties in Afghanistan increased for the 5th straight year in 2011 from nearly 2,800 to more than 3,000. An European finance minister has canceled a key meeting on Greece's financial crisis, saying Greek officials have failed to meet all the required conditions for a massive bailout. Greek lawmakers approved a second austerity measure on Sunday that would lead to the massive public sector layoffs and benefit cuts. But Eurozone finance minister says Greek leaders have failed to offer assurances the austerity measure will be implemented following massive protests in the capital, Athens. And Syrian forces have launched new operations targeting opposition activists as the bombardment of the city of Homs continued on the 12th day. Syrian tanks have reportedly shelled areas of Hama, Syria's 4th largest city. Raids against opposition activists have also been conducted in the capital, Damascus. In Homs, an oil pipeline was attacked earlier yesterday, setting off a major blaze. Government Syrian President Bashir al-Assad, meanwhile, has announced it will hold a referendum on a new draft constitution later this month, followed by parliamentary elections within 90 days. Opposition activists already vowed to boycott the votes, calling them a front to maintain Assad's grip on power. U.S.-backed monarchy in Bahrain imposed a heavy security presence in the capital city of Manama to deter protesters marking the first anniversary of the start of the pro-democracy protests. Armored vehicles patrolled mile a mile at state forces fired tear gas at a group of activists gathered at Pearl Roundabout, the focal point of the opposition demonstrations. A number of people were arrested, including 6 U.S. citizens and a group of witnessed Bahrain who had come to monitor the crackdown. All 6 will be deported. Their expulsion follows the deportations of another 2 U.S. activists from Bahrain earlier last week. President Obama hosted Chinese Vice President and presumptive leader in waiting, Xi Jinping, at the White House on Tuesday as part of the key U.S. visit. Xi is aligned to assume the Chinese presidency March 2013 and sat in the Oval Office. Obama said he would press China on human rights policies and currency manipulation. President Obama said, "We want to work with China to make sure that everybody is working by the same rules in the road when it comes to the world economic system. And that includes ensuring that there is a balanced trade flow between not only the United States and China, but around the world. It also means that in critical issues like human rights, we will continue to emphasize that we will believe is important and recognizing the aspirations and rights of all people." Outside the White House, hundreds of people rallied to protest Chinese treatment of Tibet, ethnic Uyghurs, and members of the Falun Gong. Alim Setov of the Uyghur American Association urged President Obama to pressure Chinese Vice President Xi Jinping on alleged human rights abuses, and said, "Our hope is that when President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden meet with the Chinese Vice President, they would raise, in addition to other security and trade issues, would raise human rights issues, specifically cases on the Uyghur Muslims and Tibetan Buddhists, in addition to the Chinese dissidents and lawyers who have been locked up and disappeared." A prison fire in Honduras has killed at least 272 inmates, many of whom burned to death in their cells. Deaths were blamed on the absence of a guard who had the cell keys. The fire erupted Tuesday night at a prison about 90 miles north of the capital. And U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta appeared before lawmakers on Tuesday to defend President Obama's plans to increase the military budget by lower levels than in previous years. Panetta insisted the United States will spare no resources in military operations in Asia, and said there is nothing like a carrier to be able to allow for quick deployment in that area, and will give us a great capacity to be able to show our force structure in the Pacific. In addition to that, we are going to maintain obviously a military presence. We already have one in Korea, but we are going to maintain an additional rotational presence with our Marines throughout that area. We have just developed an agreement with Australia to do a rotational presence there. We are working with the Philippines on hopefully a similar arrangement there as well. Congressional leaders have reached a tentative compromise to extend the payroll tax cut through the end of 2012, saving families who make $50,000 a year an estimated $1,000 annually. The plan would also stop benefits for the long-term unemployment from expiring next month, as well as blocking a cut in reimbursements to doctors who accept Medicare. Republicans dropped several controversial provisions, including one that required jobless people to pursue high school equivalency degrees in order to receive aid. Hundreds of people rallied at the Alabama State House in Montgomery on Tuesday to protest the state's controversial anti-immigration law. The measure also has already forced thousands of undocumented immigrants, primarily Latino, to flee the state. The law provision includes requirements for checking of immigration status during traffic stops by police or for state workers processing license requests, public school enrollment, and driver's permits. Activists came to the State House from across Alabama and say they plan to remain there several days. Alabama lawmakers have promised to modify the law, but opponents are calling for its full repeal. A group of dog lovers rallied outside Westminster Kennel Club dog show at New York City's Madison Square Gardens on Tuesday in protest of Republican presidential hopeful Mitt Romney. Animal rights groups have criticized Romney for transporting his dog in a kennel tied to the roof of his car during a family vacation in the 80s. Protesters demonstrated against Romney with their pets in tow. Alan Charney said the main purpose of this was really to use the dog show as a backdrop to get information out to the general public about Mitt Romney and the mistreatment of the dog many years ago, what it says about his character and what that says about his fitness to be president of the United States. Someone who could mistreat his dog the way Mitt Romney did is probably not the kind of person we want to be president of the United States. Well, I don't even know. I have no comment for that one. A new report was found deep flaws in the U.S. voter registration system, including the presence of more than 1.8 million dead people still listed as active voters. Researchers from the Pew Center, yeah, it's Pew, all right, states also around 24 million active voters registrations that one's every 8 either invalid or inaccurate. Meanwhile, the estimated 1/4 of U.S. citizens who are eligible to vote are not registered. Florida State Senate has defeated a measure that would have privatized at least 27 prisons, creating the largest corporate-run prison system in the country. Supporters of the Florida plan have touted it as a cost-saving measure, while critics says it would harm state workers and lead to profit-driven systems. Despite the vote, Republican Governor Rick Scott could still privatize the prisons through executive authority. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, the number of prisoners being added to privately run jails is outpacing the overall prison population by 17% compared to 4%. And that's it for World News today. Now I would like to thank another one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware.
That's right, it's time for the police spotter, and pictures in the blotter are not from these actual events but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Monday, 7:49 a.m. A woman from 600 block of Woodland Way reported a man broke into her residence, took food, and slept in her van while she was in jail. She did not want to press charges. 8:53 a.m. A caller from 700 block of Maltman Drive reported a transient sleeping in a hallway who could not be located. At 9:01 a.m., a caller from 800 block of Morgan Ranch Drive reported the theft of a wallet and $20 from an unlocked vehicle. Notice the word unlocked. 1:02 p.m., a caller from 600 block at South Auburn Street reported a woman's card had been declined. She was drunk and incoherent. She was taken to the emergency room. And 2:15 p.m., a woman from 800 block at Suttonwick reported a man yelled at her and pounded on her vehicle, causing a small dent. At 7:17 p.m., a caller from 800 block of Sutton Way reported a panhandler was asking for drugs. 7:34 p.m., a caller from 100 block of West Olympia Drive reported vandalism to a vehicle with a broken window. At 7:55 p.m., a man from the address reported he had been hit in the head with a bottle and was seeking treatment at the emergency room. At 8:36 p.m., a caller from 1300 block of Whispering Pines Lane reported 2 men camping. At 9:23 p.m., a woman from 300 block of Pleasant Street reported a man hit her twice. And Tuesday, 3:11 a.m., a woman from 100 block of West Berry Hill Drive reported a man threw a woman on the ground. At 3:57 a.m., a caller from 300 block of West Main Street reported a woman was not paying for a ride. She was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public and violating probation. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Monday, 9:25 a.m. Caller from Penn Valley Drive and Spenceville Road reported a burglary to a motorhome. At 9:31 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Wolf Road reported a possible scam with a person saying he was trying to get his fiancée and her child out of Nigeria and would pay the caller back. 11:40 a.m., a woman from Banner-Lavacap Road reported her sister stepped on her foot. The sister could be heard yelling in the background. At 11:42 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Kearney Court reported an assault. At 2:34 p.m., a caller from 16,000 block of Sandra Court reported finding a bullet hole in a bedroom window. At 2:53 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Goodyear Drive reported identity theft. At 2:56 p.m., a be on the lookout advisory was issued for a high-risk sex offender whose ankle monitor bracelet went dead in Grass Valley area. 3:28 p.m., a man from 10,000 block of Cary Drive reported his neighbor grabbed his sunglasses and threw them at him during an argument. And 4:17 p.m., a caller from Hutto Road and Big Oak Drive reported quads tearing up a private road. And 6:53 p.m., a woman from 10,000 block of Cary Drive reported her neighbor was outside with a pellet gun threatening to do a Valentine's Day massacre. He then stabbed a neighbor's pool and was inside his residence breaking glass. 7:34 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Suzanne Way reported a man was throwing things at a woman during an argument. It was found to be verbal only. At 8:05 p.m., a caller from Kingston Lane reported a 7-year-old girl was approached by a woman after school who asked her to help her look for a puppy. 9:12 p.m., a woman from 13,000 block of Marina Drive reported her husband was broken down in the middle of the lake. He was located and assisted. And Tuesday, 3 a.m., woman from 15,000 block of Johnson Place reported hearing a noise and seeing a person's hand inside her front door, with the person trying to get in. She said she pushed the door closed and locked it. It might have been a bad dream. And Nevada City Police Department on Monday, 11:05 a.m. A caller from 100 block of Grove Street reported a possible burglary in progress. It was found to be the landlord. At 3:10 p.m., a caller from Highway 40 and Sacramento Street reported 3 girls dropped items from the overpass onto the freeway. They could not be located. And that's it for the blotter today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. You guessed it, it's us. GVTV News. In local news headlines, 2 North San Juan men arrested after traffic stop. And Callanan Park drug case moves forward. And Montana man pleads no contest to drug and weapon charges. One other story, I forgot the subtitle. In today's first local story, written by Liz Keller of the Union, 2 convicted felons are facing new charges after allegedly being found with drugs and guns during a traffic stop Monday. California Highway Patrol officer pulled over a Ford Explorer being driven by Robert Theron Avila, 57, at about 4:50 p.m. because it had expired registration tags, according to CHP spokesperson Mark Morrison. Avila pulled into the CHP facility on Sutton Way, and the officer allegedly smelled burnt marijuana from inside the SUV. Avila denied smoking pot or having any drugs in the Explorer, but the search of the vehicle reportedly uncovered more than 3 pounds of marijuana, a pipe with burnt marijuana, large container of concentrated hash, a container of methamphetamine, and 3 loaded guns, one of which was located behind the driver's seat. Avila and his passenger, David Allen Roper, 54, were both found to be convicted felons, Morrison said. Avila was arrested on suspicion of transportation of marijuana for sale, possession of concentrated cannabis, possession of prohibited ammunition, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. He was booked and released on a $10,000 bail. Roper was arrested on suspicion of possession of a controlled substance, carrying a concealed weapon in a vehicle, possession of a prohibited prohibited ammunition, and being a felon in possession of a firearm, he was being held in lieu of a $10,750 bail. In another Liz Keller story, a case against an alleged drug dealer will move forward after his attorney was unable to turn up any complaints against the arresting officers relating to falsified reports or excessive force. Charles Willen Mason, 30, was arrested August 12th after Nevada County Sheriff deputies reportedly found $18,000 in cash and more than 5 pounds of marijuana in his vehicle. Members of the Narcotics Task Force were conducting a surveillance at Callanan Park in downtown Nevada City on August 12th when they allegedly saw a drug transaction next to the park and made a traffic stop of the car. Search of the vehicle allegedly revealed the cash in a pot as well as methamphetamine pipe, scale, and several knives. A subsequent search of his residence allegedly uncovered 44 marijuana plants. Mason was arrested on suspicion of possession of a controlled substance and drug paraphernalia, transport of a controlled substance, transport for sale, and possession of marijuana for sale. Mason's attorney, Catherine Hallinan, had unsuccessfully tried to have his charges dropped because the marijuana was for his own personal use, and medical use, and because conflicting law on prosecution of marijuana cases has raised a constitutionality issue. Hallinan then filed a motion that requested the personal records of 4 sheriff deputies and a Nevada City police officer. Motion sought any records having to do with lengthy lists of complaints, including falsification of reports, improper conduct and procedures, dishonesty, excessive force, illegal search and seizure, and failure to provide Miranda warnings. Mason disputed driving at a high rate of speed and claimed he never gave consent to have his vehicle searched, according to Hallinan's motion. He also alleged he was thrown against a patrol car while being handcuffed. Nevada County Superior Court Judge Candace Heidelberger on Tuesday granted the motion, in part ruling that she would only review the records of 2 sheriff deputies in regards to falsifying reports, record of the one Nevada City Police Department officer in relation to complaints of excessive force. After reviewing these personal records in the chambers, Heidelberger said she had found no complaints of the nature sought against any of the 3 officers. Mason pleaded not guilty to the charges against him, and a preliminary hearing into evidence was set for April 19th. Hallinan indicated she would be filing a motion for the return of his property at that time. In our last Liz Keller story today, a Montana man faced charges in his home state as well as federal charges, pleading no contest in Nevada County Friday to possession of methamphetamine for sale and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Troy Damshin, 50, of Lewistown, Montana, agreed to plea in return for a stipulated 2-year state prison term. He was to return first to Montana, where he recently took a plea agreement in return for a maximum sentence of 4 years. His local sentencing was set for April 13th. The plea bargain was fair, said Nevada County Deputy District Attorney Jim Phillips. I'm confident we would have prevailed at trial. I hope he takes this plea and sentence as an opportunity to rehabilitate himself. Damshin was arrested after a traffic stop on Highway 20 between Penn Valley Drive and Pleasant Valley Road on October 6th in 2010. The Nevada County Sheriff's deputies who stopped Damshin testified he noticed an overwhelming odor he associated with recently manufactured methamphetamine when Damshin rolled a window down. During the search, Narcotic Task Force members said they found a vial with nearly 3 grams of meth, more than 47 grams of meth hidden inside a fake WD-40 can, a loaded .38 caliber Derringer pistol, 97 hydrocodone, a painkiller, pills in an Icebreaker's mint tin, several meth pipes, and a digital scale. They also found 15 pounds of marijuana inside the compartment walls of the trailered car and packed inside 4 spare tires that were inside the car. Damshin was carrying more than $6,500 in cash, task force members said. Damshin was later arrested 3 times in Montana, all on drug and weapons charges. He still faces federal charges for July's arrest after a photo had surfaced on Facebook that showed him posing with 2 semi-automatic weapons equipped with silencers, reportedly taken at a party at his residence. In a Trina Cly story, this is the one I didn't tell you about earlier, out of the Union, a complaint lodged with the state has resulted in a citation for the Wolf Creek Lodge project in Grass Valley. Situation that led to the violations was left by a contractor who formerly managed the site, the new project manager said. The result will be a model project, she vowed. Getting the site cleaned up and all up to all safety standards is part of the larger change in culture, which the owners are pleased to be making on all levels, said developer, project manager, and co-owner Catherine McCammett of Co-Housing Partners LLC in Nevada City. An inspection from the California Division of Occupational Health and Safety, or OSHA, last week visited the construction site at the corner of Freeman Lane and West McKnight Way, discussing several issues with the new project. Supervisor Scott Warner. OSHA Inspector William S. Cree cited the project for failure to have a permit for the construction of a building of a structure over 36 foot high and the associated excavation of trenches and excavations at the same site, according to the citation. Project was fined $435, but would have been fined $1,250, Warner said. The permit was issued on the spot, he added. We already had steps to implement safety measure in motion when the inspector arrived, Warner said. No workers were endangered by the lack of the permit because the construction of the lodge had not started, he added. We're working closely with OSHA to make sure that all safety standards are met, McCammett added. The former general contractor, Gray Construction of Auburn, was supposed to have applied for and gotten the permit, which normally costs $50, but didn't do so, Warner said. Gray Construction was dismissed from the site January 16th. Work started in October 2010. When asked about the allegations that what a necessary permit was not acquired and hazards are not mitigated on the site during his management, Gray Construction owner Doug Gray said, if Gray Construction is responsible for a site, then they're responsible for the site. If Gray Construction is no longer responsible for the site, then they are no longer responsible for the site. That's interesting. We're no longer on the project. I have not heard from OSHA, Gray added. Safety violations alleged. Allegations of OSHA violations are brought to the union's attention by Charles Tim Gore of Gore Development, a general engineer and licensed contractor in Nevada County who said he knows Gray. Gore said he had not spoken to Gray in about 2 years and had not spoken to him about this project. Gore visited the job site after Gray Construction was removed from the job and spoke to Warner, but he did not mention any of his safety concerns, Warner said. Gore had applied for the job of site supervisor for the project in 2007 and was turned down, McCammett said. Previous construction management also left several safety hazards, including no protection for the pit, a pit to accommodate the lodge's elevator shaft, and no railing by a retaining wall for the upper driveway, Warner added. That's all I had time for in that story. There's more of it in the union. And that's it for local news today. We'd like to thank the Union, Associated Press, Amy Goodman, Reuters, and others for the sourcing of the news, and for watching. You can watch this broadcast, Comcast Cable, NCTV, Channel 11, Nevada County, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, 7 and 16, and truck announces here. We also stream on the internet at NCTV's Digital Media Center at NevadaCountyTV.org and GVTV.net.